Ever wonder what to do when a slow song comes on at a wedding or a prom? Instead of swaying awkwardly with your partner, let's learn how to dance with grace and confidence with these 4 simple steps.
Get your glow sticks out, we're about to rave.
Hey, Pops, keep that beat a beat. I feel a rhythmic brainstorm coming on. 1, 2, keep that rhythm heating. One more riff like that and I'll be gone. Oh man, don't stop now, we're jumping. Give everything to Lord now. This thing might turn into something.
You know what I was? I went to Spain earlier this year, right? And they're all doing this mad dance. I reckon this lady over here is responsible. She sold loads of records in September. Her name's Wickfield. She's a babe. Saturday night.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
Glastonbury, 25 years. Here's the 25 more, all right? Live on.
So this is a show called We Can Dance Again. And it starts off last summer with something I saw on Facebook. My friend had posted a message saying it had all got a bit much for her. She was having one of those horrible days. She missed her friends. She missed strangers. She wanted to go out. She wanted to be able to hug people. She wanted to be able to lick their faces and to share a menu with someone. Sometimes you're nostalgic for every single thing that has ever happened. And she beautifully articulated all of her fears and the way she was feeling in this post on Facebook. And people replied to it with their own responses, saying, "Don't worry, that's how I feel too." There was this real catharsis in the responses. And I read them thinking it really did make people feel better. And one person had replied to this message, not using any words, but just with a link to a song. And it was by Pulp. Now, I'm a big Pulp fan, but I'd never heard of this song before. But I followed the link and pressed play, and immediately it was very obvious why they had chosen this song. It felt like it had been written in direct response to my friend's message. Every issue she had raised was being answered in this song. It's called We Can Dance Again. And it's quite hard to find any information about this song. It was an unreleased demo from 1995, the same year that Pulp released Common People. And as far as I can tell, they only ever performed it once, at a Christmas show at Brixton Academy in 1994. But I did read somewhere that it was Jarvis Cocker's mum's favourite Pulp song. And as I listened to it, I realised this was my new favourite Pulp song as well. Sometimes exactly the right song comes along at exactly the right time. Jarvis Cocker in 1995 had somehow managed to articulate everything that was happening right now in the world. And I kept listening to it over and over, in that way you do when you find a new song that you love. And Jarvis Cocker is right. We can dance again.
We want to dance again. Oh, we can dance again. Take a chance again. If you can make it outdoors, you can do it once more. It's alright again.
My friend Nicola is a dance teacher in Bolton. She teaches 4, 5 and 6-year-olds dancing. She's done it for about 10 years now, and she loves it. Her face always lights up when she's talking about her dance lessons. And Nicola has got a theory that very soon there is going to be a completely new dance revolution. And it's the kind of thing that we have no idea what it's going to be. She can't predict what it will be like. She just knows that something is going to happen. Nicola has been spending the time that she's not been able to go in to teach her dance lessons by researching the history of dancing. She's working on this project about how the end of the First World War changed the way that we dance and changed the way that people will dance forever. I asked her if she would share some of her research with me. And she talked about how the way people dance because of that war is just like people dance in a way that they'd never danced before. Brand new buildings were being opened just to accommodate the amount of people who wanted to dance. She found this article in the Sunday Sun newspaper in 1919 where they wrote, "There is a boom in dancing. Ever since the silencing of the guns in November, it has loomed large in our social lives. What was once an art has become a craze. And if things go on as they are, it's safe to assume that dancing will shortly become an obsession." Nicola is certain that this is going to happen again, because throughout history, when things have got bad, people have danced.
Between 1919 and 1926, 11,000 nightclubs opened. The Times newspaper called it a jazz madness. Buildings were adapted to make room for all the people that wanted to dance. And in 1922, the Association of Dance Teachers complained of all the evil effects of all these unrestricted gatherings. People were dancing, but they weren't doing it properly. Or at least that's the way the dance teachers saw it. Dancing was something for the upper classes. It should be taken seriously. But now that the First World War was over, dancing was open to everyone. The Express, the Daily Mail and the Mirror all appointed dancing correspondents who wrote about how dancing was changing people's lives, that people were able to meet and relax and feel optimistic again in the dance halls. Despite the sadness of war, it was over and people were dancing. Hammersmith Palais opened in 1919, and on its opening night, 7,000 people queued to get in. The venue was so popular its owners replicated the building throughout the country. Hammersmith Palais was one of the most popular venues, full of ballroom dancing and jazz bands. The most popular dance of the 1920s, the Charleston. One of my favourite things when researching the history of dance is that in the dance halls, they'd have signs saying PCQ, which stood for Please Charleston Quietly, because people were getting so excited they were injuring themselves. By 1938, 2 million people went dancing every week. When the Second World War started a year later, it was expected that the dance craze wouldn't be able to continue. And this was something specific to the end of the First World War. And now life was going to get sad and tough again. The government closed down all the places of public entertainment. And on the 3rd of September 1939, the ballrooms closed. But that proved to only be a brief pause in the dance obsession. During the bombing, people still danced. It's not that dancing was unaffected by war, it was becoming more and more popular. Other leisure facilities were being abandoned and weren't able to continue, so people danced. 1942, the peak of the Blitz, was the boom in the dance world. In 1942, a newspaper called Modern Dance and Dancer, it was written, "Dancing is a complete avenue of escape from the ordinary routine of life, taking one into a happy atmosphere where one may forget one's worries for a while." Wartime was dark and bleak, with constant blackouts. The dance halls were full of colour, atmosphere and happiness. The dance hall owners realised this and they were making their decorations more colourful, more vibrant than ever.
So a few weeks after hearing that Pulp song for the first time, I was having one of those days as well, when you wake up and you wish that the entire world was different. I'm looking at, I don't get those days too often, but they do come around. But before I had a chance to get too sad and too worried about things, I sensed this vague, faraway voice of Jarvis Cocker. What was that song called again? I typed "We Can Dance Again" into my Spotify so I could listen to it. But as well as that song coming up, I found playlist after playlist where people had used exactly the same words. There were playlists called "We Can Dance Again" or "We Can Hug Again." 2021, please may we dance again. Can we dance on the ceilings again? This is a playlist for when we can dance. You know, for when we can dance again. And there's one playlist that's called "For When We Can Wear Glitter Again," which describes itself as a playlist for people to know that very soon we can dance in the dingy clubs, covered in glitter, wearing jockstraps once more. There are people sitting on their beds and at their kitchen tables and on their sofas, making playlists for when they could dance again. And this felt really sort of intriguing, all of these people who just missed dancing. They missed festivals and clubs and parties and weddings. There was one playlist that I felt particularly attached to. It's called "We Can Dance Again," and it's made by someone called Stella. And as soon as I saw this, I thought, this playlist is so full of beautiful, amazing songs. I thought I'd be friends with Stella. It's got songs like "Since I Left You" by the Avalanches, Nana Cherry, Ronnie Size, Orbital, New Order, Nana Cherry, Primal Scream. And I just loved listening to this playlist. And I realized that Stella will have been at home desperate for the time that she could dance again. But what I particularly liked about Stella's playlist is that she ended it with "Reasons to Be Cheerful," Part 3 by Ian Dury and the Blockheads, which is a song that's just a list of things that Ian Dury thinks we should be cheerful about. One of them is boats. Reasons to be cheerful. Boats. And I realized that he was right and Stella was right. There are reasons to be cheerful, and we can dance again. Life has been hard, but we'll be okay. That's the problem though, really, isn't it? That's why we keep having these sad days. That's why people like my friend are writing these messages on Facebook. Because we won't be okay. Not all of us. Some of us, it's really bad. You can have positivity and energy and positive thoughts, but that can only take you a certain amount. Things might not be okay. One of the really positive presences in my life, particularly the last 2 years, is my friend Grace. She is a choreographer and a dance instructor in Bristol. And I asked if I could talk to her about her relationship with dancing. About 10 years ago, she set up a project called Joy in Dance, where she goes to festivals and special events and parties and gives these bespoke performances, encouraging people to move their bodies and to feel proud of themselves and to just realised that there is such joy in dance.
Personally, I started, I mean, I've been dancing my whole life since I was young, and then I worked for many, many years as an actor, and so movement was often a part of that. But about 15 years ago, I started this practice for myself of dancing every day in the mornings, like before I turned my phone on, before I sort of engaged with work or emails or anything like that. And it really just was a complete revelation of how good it made me feel. Not just how good it made me feel, but actually how much it increased things like productivity. And I was just sort of like, God, I'm in a better mood, my day's flowing better, everything's really... and I wrote an article about that, and I sort of explored that idea. And then I think the joy in dance stuff came out of that in some ways, really, and just realizing what an incredible thing dance can be, and what an amazing tool and resource, and actually that some people have been sort of really disconnected from that, or that actually dance can be a source of like a lot of social anxiety, or people feeling like they can't dance, or they've been told that they can't dance. And so I really wanted to use dance in my practice to help people go, actually, do you know what, absolutely anyone can dance, whatever your age, body shape, type, ability. Dance is a really beautiful thing, and we know that it releases all the happy endorphins, and it's, you know, it's good for mental health and physical and well-being, and so yeah, then I started to explore how I could work with people to bring dance in and be like, actually, do you know what, dance is for everyone. It's not an exclusive thing that is only reserved for those who are incredibly gifted or coordinated or flexible. It can be for everyone and should be for everyone.
Talking to Grace led me on to meeting and talking to other people who have dancing at the centre of their life and who help people through dancing. I found out about dance therapy, something that started in America. The person credited with the first person ever to be a dance therapist was called Marion Chase in 1947. Just like Nicola had told me, these things happened after the war. After the First World War and after the Second World War, dancing took over. And that's why people like Marion Chase were suddenly becoming dance therapists. Dance therapy is just like therapy. It's where you help people who are in physical or mental pain. But either you yourself go there, or someone in your family, or someone close to you decides that dance therapy is what you need. Sometimes talking about something isn't enough, or sometimes you're not able to. But if dance has been a big part of your life, when you're dancing, things feel better. I spoke to a dance therapist in Chicago who specializes with people who have Alzheimer's, and she dances with them. She waltzes with them. She goes to special places that she set up and goes ballroom dancing and tangoing, or listens to soul music and gospel music. People are being helped all over the world by dancing. And I've seen Grace at these festivals, and it's a beautiful thing to watch all of these people squashed together in tents and in marquees, dancing along to the music that Grace is playing them, and leading these people who are kind of hungover or tired in the sunshine at 9 o'clock in the morning at a festival. And it's just beautiful. And I start to feel bad that I've never joined in. Dancing is something I've always felt like it's not quite for me. It's something I feel incredibly self-conscious about.
When everything stopped, all of my kind of live work and production work and theatre work just absolutely vanished with the lockdowns. So I started to offer the joy and dance stuff online, and again, that the feedback that particularly excited me was people saying, I wouldn't do this normally. I wouldn't go to this class. I would be too scared. Or people even saying, oh, I've seen your classes at festivals, but even that feels like too exposing. And they're like, this is amazing because I'm dancing around in my kitchen and no one can see me and no one's judging me and I'm really letting myself go. And so I think doing it for you first and foremost is a good place to start, you know. And again, it's reclaiming, because I think a lot of us who have hang-ups around dance, as I did actually, funny enough, there was a point in my life as a teenager where I sort of felt like, oh God, you know, we're out and we're dancing and we're clubbing, and it was very much about being aware of how you're dancing and other people watching you or judging you, or how am I. Whereas when we're dancing on our own, in our bedrooms, in our kitchens, you know, headphones on or stereo turned up loud and just shaking it out, it's like, this is totally for me. I can throw all the shapes, I can be as silly, I'm not performing, no one's judging me, like this is mine. And the joy that can bring, I think, is a really powerful resource, actually. So just do it, I think, is the advice. Just do it, and just do it for yourself, and reclaim it. Go, yeah, this is mine. This is mine. You know, look at this awesome body. I'm allowed to throw these limbs around, because anything that's telling us otherwise is the nonsense, really, isn't it? It's the systems that say, you're not quite right, your body's not the right shape, you're not, you know, no. Sod that.
I read about a study that had happened in New York where they looked at babies between the age of, I think, 3 months up to kind of toddlers, 2.5 years, and how they responded to different types of music, different genres. And the start of this research was to look at how babies kind of wriggled their bodies in response to the different stimuli. But as it went on, they became much more interested, not so much what was happening with their bodies of the babies and the toddlers, but what was happening on their faces. They realized that every single time music was playing, the babies were smiling. When we are born, we smile when we hear music. And there was research done at Sheffield University where 15 participants were put into a room and they played a Basement Jaxx song. And they were split into 3 groups. One group was asked to dance to Basement Jaxx. The second group was asked to go on an exercise bike. And the third group was asked to just sit down and quietly listen to this song. When the song ended, they were given a puzzle to solve. And the researchers noticed that not only were the people who'd been dancing the people whose moods had increased the most, but the first 5 people to solve the puzzle were all the people who had been dancing. If you want to solve a puzzle, maybe you should have a dance first. And I was enjoying researching lots of different things about music. Any kind of things that I thought about dancing, anything that I thought was interesting about dancing, I was researching and trying to talk to people whose lives were revolved around music. And I found myself on the drum and bass website where someone asked on the forum a question I think all of us want to know the answer to. How do you dance to drum and bass? And one of the answers, this kind of went on for a few pages, and then someone wrote, to dance to drum and bass, you have to keep loving the music. And maybe people will see how happy the music makes you, and that will make them happy too.
Hello, John.
Hello, thank you for...
Apologies, I was speaking to next door neighbour and I just heard the phone go and I couldn't get to it in time.
That's absolutely no apology. I'm really grateful for you talking to me at all. That's really nice of you.
No problem. It's one of them. We're always keen to promote Morris dancing in general terms, so any positions we can give to the wider cultural community is always willingly given.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, it was one of the first things I wrote down on my list, actually, when I was thinking of different ways to communicate about the importance of dancing. So can you tell me about your relationship with Morris dancing, how you got into it and your background with that?
I had moved to Birmingham with work And I'd always been interested in folk music, and I was looking for something different to do. And there was a local Morris team that practiced on a Friday evening. I went along and pretty much fell feet first into it, quite literally in many respects. when you're one of those funny things, when you find a new social group and it doesn't take long to assimilate.
Yeah.
You know, you find that you're going away to different places across the country over a weekend. You're doing events here and there, practicing every Friday night, and it does become a second family.
For the next few months, whenever I wanted to put music on, I wasn't even listening to my own music anymore. I'd just go straight to Stella's We Can Dance Again playlist and I'd put it on shuffle. I was just a bit bored of my own taste in music. Not just music, I was bored of my own cups of tea and my own cooking and my own thoughts. At least music was something that I could outsource, and now Stella was making these decisions for me. I just kept listening to that playlist, and then one day, without realizing it, I'd found a load of other playlists that Stella had made, each of them with equally beautiful titles. There was a playlist called Songs That Sound Like Paintings, and there was a bookshop playlist and a cooking playlist and women funk and the essential fats waller and a playlist entirely made of Nick Drake songs. And obviously, best of all was the We Can Dance Again playlist. I felt so sorry for Stella. It was clear she was so desperate to go out dancing. And that's why for her, I really hope that Nicola is right. And that any day soon, there is going to be a completely new dance revolution. Because all that Stella really wants feels like a world where people dance.
It's good to remember that dancing didn't just happen in the ballrooms and the nightclubs. It happened in the factories too. Workers would dance to the radio. This was something started by the factory owners to increase morale during the war. And by 1943, 3,000 factories had loudspeakers on to play the music to the workers, who'd just dance to make themselves feel better. And it increased their productivity. Some factories had concerts on during the day. And a factory in Edinburgh opened a dance club entirely for people who worked night shifts, so they could come and dance in the afternoon before starting their shift in the evening. One of the factory owners said, "We're certain that by allowing the workers to dance like this, they'll get to know each other better and look forward to working when the shift starts." And reports showed that wherever dances were arranged in the factories, the health of the employees improved. They smiled more and their work output increased dramatically. To make people work and to make people happy, people were encouraged to dance.
One of Stella's playlists is called Stella Everything. And it's not by Stella. It was made for Stella. Maybe it's someone romantic or one of her friends or someone in her family. But it's all the same, really, isn't it? It's all absolute hope. These people were not just making playlists for themselves, they were making playlists for other people. Maybe the world isn't as lonely as we sometimes think it is. There is hope everywhere, even in Spotify playlists. Stella Everything. Everything was written all in capitals. I didn't listen to Stella Everything because it wasn't made for me. It was made for Stella. And I hope they're okay, Stella and the person who made the playlist for Stella and all of the people making those We Can Dance Again playlists. I hope they're able to go out and have fun. I like to think they'll all go out together. that somehow they all know each other. The one thing that did make me sad was that on Stella's We Can Dance Again playlist, there isn't the song We Can Dance Again by Pulp, because she'd definitely like it. She's got really good taste in music. I've been thinking a lot about those dance halls in those weeks after the First World War. And I wonder what it would be like if that kind of thing was possible to happen again. Blue skies and optimism and dance halls that you can go to for no other reason than to have a good time. I don't think I'd have really liked those 1920s dance halls. I like to think I would have done, but there's a bit of me that thinks maybe I'd have just gone there and sat there awkwardly, and because I don't like dancing, I'd have just left early and gone home and put something nice on the gramophone. Listening to Stella's playlists has meant I've been listening to more music than I've been for a few years. Stella was introducing me to bands and artists that I had never listened to before. And it was exciting to have music back in my life again, because other things come and go, but music is always there. We should appreciate every octave. It's even these dance halls that were so popular, they started to fade. Day by day, people would say, let's not bother going to the dance hall this week. And then they never went again. Hammersmith Palais is student flats now. My grandparents will have danced with hats on in those dance halls, and look at me watching YouTube clips of Dragon's Den. I do it every day. I watch YouTube clips of Dragon's Den. And it's not just me doing it. There's loads of people. All of the comments on the YouTube pages are full of people saying, why am I doing this? Why am I watching YouTube clips of Dragon's Den? And people replied by saying, I don't know, but I keep doing it as well. Every day I'm watching YouTube clips of Dragon's Den. We're all in this loop of familiarity because we don't have anything exciting planned, and we're just watching YouTube clips of Dragon's Den. One day my knees won't work anymore, and I don't want to regret things. I don't want to feel bad that I didn't dance more. I started to feel bad. All of these people I'd been speaking to, talking so positively about how when you smile, when you dance, you smile. It never made any impact on my life. I spoke to Grace to ask if she had any advice for me. It was a way that even someone like me would be able to have dancing in my life.
Hearing feedback from people going, oh God, you know, I miss dancing. I'm getting so miserable because I'm not dancing. And I'm like, but surely you're just jumping around in your kitchen to Beyonce, aren't you? And they're like, you know, they're saying I'm missing dancing because the clubs are closed, the pubs are closed, the festivals are not happening. And so then I was like, again, we are sort of just saying to people, you're allowed to dance. You're allowed to dance right now in this room where you are at this moment in time. You don't have to go, well, it's lockdown, so there won't be another festival for maybe a year, so I won't get to do any dancing. You know, if that's what you associate, if that's the space where you dance, or you associate dancing maybe with alcohol, or, you know. So just to say to people, you can change that story anytime you want. You could get up out of your chair right now and shake and move. And so that was a really exciting thing to be able to share with people in times when we were, really, really made to stand still.
It was becoming pretty clear what it was that I had to do. I put on Stella's We Can Dance Again playlist, loud on my Bluetooth speakers. And for the first time in my whole life, I danced on my own in my flat, in my front room, just for 15 minutes, exactly what Grace had told me. And I did it the next day, and I did it the next day. Maybe it's something that I'll keep on doing. Because the one thing that kept emerging is that when you dance, you smile. When I started writing this, it felt like I was writing a show about dancing. But the more research I did, I realized that wasn't what I was doing at all. I was writing a show about smiling and confiding. And I think deep down, the main point of life is to find as many reasons to smile as possible. I don't really think it gets much more complicated than that. I loved listening to all of this music. And I loved listening to We Can Dance Again playlists. I think that really that's what Jarvis Cocker meant when he wrote that song in 1995. We Can Dance Again. It's a really good song. I don't really understand why it's not on any of their albums.
Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Summer Buddy Holly, the working folly, good golly Miss Molly, and boats. Hammersmith Pally, the Bolshoi Bally, jump back in the alley, add nanny goats. 18-wheeler camels, Dominica camels, all other mammals plus equal votes. Seeing Piccadilly, Fanny Smith and Willie, being rather silly, and porridge oats. I better grin and bear it, I better come and share it. You're welcome, we can spare it. Yellow socks, too short to be haughty, too nutty to be naughty. Going on 40, no electric shocks. The juice of the carrot, the smile of the parrot, a little drop of claret, anything that rocks. Elvis and Scotty, days when I ain't spotty, sitting on the potty, curing smallpox. Reasons to be cheerful. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. Part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3. Reasons to be cheerful. Part 3. Health service classes, gigolos and brasses, round or skinny bottoms. Taking mum to Paris, lighting up the chalice, Wee Willie Harris. Bantu Stephen Biko, listening to Rico, Harpo Groucho Chico. Cheddar cheese and pickle, the Vincent motorcycle, slap and tickle. Woody Allen Darley, Dimitri and Pasquale, Balla 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 and Valari. Sunday nights to study, phoning up a buddy, being in my nutty. Saying okie dokie, sing along a smoky, coming out a chokey. John Coltrane soprano, Eddie Celentano, Bona Carlino. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3. Yes, yes, dear, dear, perhaps next year, or maybe even never. In which case... Cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, 1, 2, 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful, part 3. Reasons to be cheerful. 1, 2, 3.